The myth of balance. Balance and high performance. Can you achieve both of these things? Man, there are so many things coming at us these days, and everybody always talks about balance. And that is some call it a myth of balance, and some people say it's the most important thing that you can possibly have. When you think balance, Jed Blackwell, what comes to your mind?
Well, it's funny that we're doing this podcast, but because I don't know of anybody that's got more going on than you've got going on. So when you say balance, what comes to my mind is how in the world do you do it? You've got school board obligations, business obligations, running this podcast. That's three things, and I haven't got to Dad yet, and I haven't gotten to a bunch of other things that you've got going on. So if anybody's going to talk about balance, you're the guy to do it. How do you even start to balance all those things?
Well, I don't think you can. I think balance is the myth of perfect balance. I think that is a myth, and what I mean by that is that everything, if you've got 100%, and some people say, well, give 110%. There's no such thing as 110%.
Right.
You cannot give 110%. If you're giving 110%, what you have done is you have just found out that I had more to give in my 100. But if you have these areas where it's like, well, 25% says 25, that's just never going to happen. That's just never going to happen. There are a lot of things. Okay, I've got, and some would say, like the podcast. This podcast, we do this podcast for free. I just enjoy doing it. It's kind of a hobby. It's not kind of a hobby. It is a hobby. But I enjoy doing that. That's part of, and I don't want to get too far into what I'll talk about in a second, but, I got a family, married, have 5 children, ranging in ages from college, got one graduating high school all the way down to 6th grade. We've got Jed's on the team with us. His wife's on the team with us. We've got a chain of retail stores that I run that keeps a lot of. I mean, it's a pretty big responsibility. I do things like school board and other things like that. A lot of community stuff I'm involved in. Plus the training. Right now I'm training for an Ironman, which is a 140-mile race, which takes a lot of time to participate in. And I'm not. I love those things.
Right.
Now, and this podcast will be received by many different people, and we're all different. I think the hardest group of people to really find balance is going to be people like me. Those things, when I talk about those things, that like energizes me.
Right.
I mean, I'm that type A. I love more's better. And if you see me now in motion, just give me more. Give me more. That can destroy you. That is usually the downfall for people like me. You take on too much stuff, one thing gets out of. When I think about balance, what I think about is it's as much preventive as it is being proactive about it. You want to prevent getting out of balance. You ever had an out of balance tire?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, what happens? You're driving under and you're
shaking.
I mean, it's just shaking, and then when you let go of the steering wheel, it like pulls to the right, and pulls to the left, and so you're constantly trying to keep. I try to think about keeping. I think there's 4 areas of your life that you've got to keep. You've got to keep in balance, and I try to use Dabo Sweeney, who coaches the Clemson Tigers right down the road from us. He uses the word all in. I try to think about being all in wherever I am. So if I'm at work, if it's work, I try to be all in with that, giving 100% of my effort towards work. If I'm training, I'm trying to be 100% in doing that. If we're doing a podcast, I try to be 100% in there. If I am, scheduling a time with my daughter, just a perfect example is my daughter's off at Clemson. Well, we schedule a time that does not leave my calendar, that I meet with her, and we just have breakfast and we just talk. We just shoot the breeze, talk, and I just spend time with her. I am all in. During that hour breakfast, there's nothing going to pull me off of that unless it's an absolute emergency. But if people are texting me about work and other stuff, I'm not. Right. They get no response from me at that point. So I think it's about keeping things from getting out of balance.
Right. With that said, a true balance, I don't guess it is the actual goal there. It's balancing things one at a time as you can, like you said, give everything to what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, you'll get yourself in trouble if you try to keep everything completely in balance all the time. You're going to get yourself in trouble. You're going to be very, very frustrated because there's no way to do that. Take business, for example. Last year, I got a little bit out of balance with that. We were expanding. We're opening some new stores, a lot of different things happening. There were times when I had to be a little bit more skewed towards that.
Right.
Well, what you want to make sure you're doing is, okay, how am I keeping these other areas of my life from suffering because I'm putting so much effort into this? Athletes run into the same thing when they're training for different things. They can just disappear from their family, from everything else suffers because of what they're doing. But at the same time, there are these what I call seasons of life where you're going to be more invested into different things with that. But you've got to be proactive, but you've also got to use preventive measures to protect these things, these areas of your life, to be able to find that quote unquote balance.
How do you do that? What's your method of doing that?
Well, as with most things in my life, I have to break it down to its simplest form to make sense for somebody like me. I believe with everything inside of me, there's 4 areas of your life that you've got, and I broke them into F's, the 4 F's: fitness, finances, family, and faith. Those 4 things, I believe, though, and when I say finances, I include a lot of things in that. Right. That's your professional life, your job, all those things. If any of those things, think about 4 tires on a car. If any one of those 4 tires gets out of balance or goes flat, it's going to hurt everything else. So how do you keep those 4 things in balance? I came up with something, a year or 2 ago, and I always try to come up with these cute little names, but I call it the Great 8.
Right.
And you're gonna think I'm crazy when I say this, but every night before I go to sleep, those 4 areas: fitness, family, finances, and faith, I write down 2 things. What are 2 things I need to do tomorrow? So like tonight when I do it, it'll be what are the 8 things I need to do, 2 things in every area that are keeping me aligned with what I'm trying to do. And it could be as simple as with fitness. It could be one of my things is, run an hour today. It could be, eat 5 servings of vegetables. Just simple things. We're not talking about rocket science here. We're talking about simple things. Family. It could be spend 30 minutes with Palmer. That's one of my children's name. Where I'm saying, Kevin, tomorrow you're going to spend 30-minute alone time with your 10th grade daughter. And that could be at Waffle House before school. That's actually what it was today of that, and that's why I'm using that. With finances, it could be, it could be as simple as, because many people, and we're going to do a podcast about getting out of debt and those kind of things, but many people are on that journey of trying to get out of debt, trying to save. It could be something as simple as, I'm going to take my lunch today. And well, how's that finances? Well, you're either going to pack your lunch and take it, or you're going to go spend $10.
Right, it's $10. Yeah, exactly.
That's $10 that can lead you to those goals. And then with faith, it could be, I'm going to read 15 minutes, or I'm going to pray for my family, or I'm going to whatever that may be. But I write down those 8 things, call them the great 8, and I will, when I write those things down, then it's a guide for me the next day to be able to do that. Well, and so these seasons of life, whenever, like, you've got a lot going on in your business, or you're training for something that's really big, or got a lot of family obligations, or whatever it is, you're always keeping those things from getting out of balance. You may be 50% of your energy may be going towards your family at a certain point in time. Well, you still got these 3 other areas.
Right.
So how are you going to make sure that you're dividing the rest of that 50% of that time on these things that are important? Again, you're telling your schedule what to do. And by doing that, you're investing every day in your, I get asked this all the time about the kids. Gosh, Kevin, you got 5 kids. And they're like, well, I got 2. I don't, how do y'all do? Well, you schedule that time.
You've got to.
You've got to schedule it. And again, I can pull up my calendar and it will say Kate breakfast. Kate's my oldest daughter.
Right.
Every week it goes there. You know what breaks that?
Nothing.
Yeah. Nothing. And so you're keeping that going. While I've got a ton of obligations, with the business, I'm not going to let that hurt my family.
Right.
I'm not going to let that hurt my goals for training. You can do the same thing. Think about, when people get in financial trouble or they get so overwhelmed with debt, it affects everything else about them.
Right.
And so, we just wanted to come to you quick, just this Monday motivation we're calling it. We're going to give you something like this every Monday that's just a short, hey, how do you get these things in balance? Just regular problems that all of us are dealing with. Because I sure hadn't got this figured out. I've just figured out a methodology for being able to keep me from getting so skewed that I'm hurting these other areas of my life. So your takeaway from this is tonight, after you listen to this podcast, I want you in those 4 areas: fitness, family, finances, and faith. I want you to go write down 2 things, simple things. Don't overthink this, people. That's what gets us in trouble too, is we overthink it. What are 2 things I can do tomorrow to help my fitness? 2 things to help my family. 2 things to help my finances or my job. And the job one, it could be, I need to make a new contact tomorrow.
Right.
And then in your faith of what are 2 things that are going to grow my faith tomorrow. Write those down. At the end of the day, when you make your new list, guess what you do? Take that old list and you see, did I do these things? Mm-hmm. And what will happen is you start doing this every day, your life will change. I promise you. And you will be in control of your life, and you will be, all of a sudden it becomes magical, where it's like, how do you do all those things you do? It's like, well, because I'm very specific about what I do. You've got to be on task with what you're really trying to do. And just like our tagline says, and again, we don't just say these things, just make these things up to because they sound cute. I'm going to end the podcast like I end everyone, because I want you to really pay attention to this as we talk about balance and these areas of our life that are important to us. Take this to heart. Do the hard things today, and tomorrow will take care of itself.